Hello everybody, welcome to the second video in my competitive programming tutorials. Today we will be learning about breaking down our problems to help write more efficient solutions and being able to solve the problem better. Oftentimes I find it difficult to solve certain competitive programming and interview problems, so my solution is to take the problems and break them down. So, these are the steps that I like to use. First, I understand the problem. What is this problem asking? Next, what I understand is how does the input become the output? Oftentimes, you're going to be given a bunch of test cases to practice with, and I understand how they work. Then, what I do is I also use a whiteboard or a pencil and paper, and I just like to draw or write all the steps, like all the steps. Of course, you don't need to do that, but it's good to have a mental picture in your head. Then I break down the problem into smaller bits, which I can solve one by one. Then I join the small bits together, and I'm done. Now we will be looking at the Waterloo J3 problem. Are we there yet? I have gotten a 15 out of 15 on this question. You have decided to go on a very long drive on a very straight road. Along this road are 5 cities. As you travel, you record the distance between each pair of consecutive cities. You would like to calculate a distance table that indicates between any 2 cities you have encountered. The first line contains 4 positive integers less than 1,000, each representing the distance between consecutive pairs of consecutive cities. Specifically the ith integer, I plus 1. The output is 5 lines of 5 length. Okay, and this is a sample input. So, right off the bat, the first thing we're going to want to do is understand our problem. So, I'm going to explain this to you guys on a whiteboard. Let me just load it up. Okay. Alright, so first we start off with, let's just take the sample input for a second. So the user will input an array or a list, depending on what language you're using. This is your set of values, 3, 10, 12, and 5. And basically what's happening is that let's suppose if this is you. Alright, this is city 1. City 1, City 2, City 3, City 4. So from City 1, I am 3 meters away. So the first, or actually no. First, what you need to check is the distance from your current position to the first position, which is your house. So, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is my current house. This is the starting point. Then I go to C1. Then I go to C2, C3, and C4. So let's start off. So first, as you can see in the first line of input, I write the distance from my current position to the distance of my house, or the first position. That's simply 0. My second position, which is C1, is 3. As seen over here. So I will write 3. Then, as we can see, there is C2, which is 10 centimeter, or 10, let's go with centimeters, 10 centimeters away from C1. So all I have to do is add 3 plus 10. So we get 13. And then we just add this on and on. Now, let's take the second test case for an example. Now, I'm at So this is my house. This was the initial position. Then there is C1, C2, C3, C4. And I am over here now. So first I find the distance between my house and C1. That is 3. The distance from my current position to C1, which is 0. and then I just go 10, 22, 27. And the idea is that I repeat this over and over for 5 number of tries. Now, now the next thing we're going to want to do is break the problem down into smaller bits of solutions. I insist to pause the video right now and try to think of some. So it's clear that there's two pieces of solutions that are two ways that we can break this problem down. The first is going to be to take our array of data or set of data and be able to make loops through it, so you can shift the values together. So I will call this function or method shifts. And now this is what shift is going to do. So let's suppose if it takes 3, 10, 12, and 0 as its input. Actually, no. Even though we are given a 3, 10, 12, and 5 input, we should also have a 0 at the start. While it's not specified over here, we will add a 0. This is because 0 will be the home base, and that will also help with getting the distance. So what's going to happen is if I'm given shifts, I'm going to be returned with the values 5. That's the first line. My second line will be 3, 0, 10, 12, 5. 3 will be 3, 10, 0, 12, 5. And ideally this would just go on. The next thing we're going to need is our second method is going to figure out the sums. The second function is going to get the sums from the right of 0 and left of 0. Alright, so in order to do this, so we will call this function solve. Simple as that, just solve. Because, simplicity and whatnot. So, first of all, we're going to get our list. Our list. So let's just suppose if it's 3, 10, 0, 12, and 5. The next, we will also need another factor, which is the index where the house is. While we could use a built-in function, like list.index to find 0, it's possible that there is more than one 0, which will cause problems. That's why we will have our array, and then we will have our index, which in this situation is 0, 1, 2. And this situation is going to be 2. The next thing what we're going to do with the indexes is that or the location, is that we will first need to basically split this array. So we will split it, so 3, 10, and then 0, 12, 5. Then afterwards, what we're going to do is the next thing we're going to want to do is we want to get the sum of how would we solve this? Okay, here's what I'm thinking. What if we start off from the smallest integer, or no, why don't we have a for loop running for the length of this entire function, or this entire array or list. So it'll start off from 3, and then it'll add every single integer afterwards. So 3 plus 10 is 3. 3 plus 10 is 13. So that's 13, which we can see over here. Then we're going to go to 10. So from 10, there's no other integer, so the sum of 10 is just 10. So we will have 10 here. So that's going to be a subsection of our problem. So this is going to be called previous data. Now, let's look at 0, 12, and 15. Let's actually change the color to pink. Good old pink. So what we're going to do is is that we will also run another for loop. However, this for loop is going to, how will this for loop work? So let's call this next data because we want the next integer. Next data. So it'll start off from 0, and then what it's going to do is it will require, okay. So first of all, it'll start off from 0. So no matter what's going to happen, it'll start off from 0. So by 0, I mean the 0th index, not 0 itself. And then it's going to take in for I in range. Yeah, then it's going to take a for I in range, like a for loop. And then it's just going to get the sum of every next integer. So if the value of I is 1, it's going to take 0 and 12. So the value of that is 12. Then it's going to take 0, 12, and 0, 12, and 5, which is 17. Yeah, so we will get 12, 17, and the 0 from the first. So as you can see, that is the exact same as over here. So let's first build our solve function, and then we will build our shifts function, and then we can combine the two together. All right, we will open up Vids Code. This is my GitHub repository where I have all the code for all the questions we do. So I'm just going to make a new file. It's going to be called breaking down. And this is a j3.py. So we will first make our solve function. So def solve, and it's going to have our data, and it's going to have the location as in where the person is. So the next thing we're going to want to have is our answer. This is going to be a list which we will append to. Next we will take the data from the person to the left side, which will be our previous data. Previous data is equal to 0 to the location. So for an example, if I were to have a list 1, 2, 3, 0, 5, 7, 6, and 0 is the location, previous data will be equal to 1, 2, and 3. Then next data is equal to the data from the location of the thing all the way to the length of the data, the entire data. So len data, basically. So let me just explain this in a bit more of an easier format. So when the compiler reads this, it will make a new list called next data. It will take the location of where the person is standing, the index, and then it will take from this index all the way to the length of this entire array, or list, depending on what language you use. I would prefer to use a list because otherwise you might get index errors, but arrays do have the benefit of being faster. Next thing we're going to want to do is create a for loop. This for loop is going to be for the previous data. Because the reason why we're doing the previous data first is because if you look in the test cases, or not even the test case, if you just look at the problems altogether, you can see that, you can see altogether that it starts off from the left-hand side all the way to the right-hand side. All right, back to focusing on this. Okay. What we will do is answer.append, and we're just going to first we're going to get the sum of the previous data from the ith integer all the way to the length of previous data. What this means is that Yeah, so what this means is that, let's suppose the value of I is 0. It will take from 0 all the way to the length of previous data. And the length of previous data is simply the length from 0 all the way to its location. So in this situation, it'll be 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I to 4, which is simply, or 0 to 4. So this way it's going to be constantly decreasing in values, and as a result, we'll get the sum of all the farther integers as well as the less large integers. All right. Now, what we're going to have to do is do the for I in range of the next data, like after the location. So we can just append the sum from next data. So it'll go from 0 of next data, all the way to I plus 1. So yeah, this is pretty straightforward as to what happened in the previous one, so I should really stop deleting these. Yeah, okay. So basically, we will take next data, which is the data location from 0 all the way to 7. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take the sums from 0 all the way till... it's going to start off from 0, and then it's going to go to I plus 1, I plus 2. Or 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4 plus 1. So as a result, we will now get the sum of all the numbers ahead. Now we can simply return answer. Now, before we start doing any other amounts of coding, we need to test out our code. So instead of writing our own test cases, we will use the ones Waterloo has given us. They've only given us one. So, okay, so the list that's going to be generated is, let's actually go with the third line. So 3, 10, or actually let's go with the first line. So 0, 3, 12, 5, 10, 0, 3, 10, 12, 5, 0. So let me just explain this. So this is our list, or array, and we add a 0 to all the way to the front because that's where our house is. And right now what's going to happen is that it's going to calculate all of these. So, and the location of the 0 that we're considering, or where we are, is just 0. So if I were to run this, okay, what's happening? Oh, whoopsies. We have to print solve. Now let's just run this. So we get 0, 3, 13, 25, 30. 0, 3, 13, 25, 30. Now let's suppose if we have to, now, another thing in competitive programming is to test with multiple values. So right now I'm going to put 0 at the dead center. So 0, 1, 2. The location of 0 is now 2. So we get 13, 10, 0, 12, 17. 13, 10, 0, 12, 17. Therefore, this function works. Now, let's try to make the next function. Just for the sake of referencing, let me just show it to you guys. Where did it go? Here we go. Yeah, our next function will be shifts. And what it's going to ideally do is that we're going to give it 0, 3, 10, 12, 15. And it's going to print out every single possible shifts, where 0 is constantly going farther and further until it's at the end of the list. And yeah, now we're going to delete this whiteboard because we don't need it anymore. So shifts is simply going to be the locate. So for shifts, we'll simply just need yeah, we'll just need one variable, I believe. I think that should work. Or I don't think. I know. The function will be, we will take location as our, or actually we'll call it locations just for the sake of not mixing up variables. Because that it's good practice not to mix up variables because then it becomes difficult. So now we're going to have another we're going to have an array called answers. Or answer, actually. Because the reason why we're using the same variable name is because they have similar purposes. This array is going to hold all of our solutions for solve, but we're not going to worry about answers right now. The next thing we're going to want to do now is we're going to loop through the entire array. So let me just make this full screen because okay. For I in range locations for I in range len locations. So right now I'm looping through the locations, right? So the first thing I'm going to want to do is let's see. Okay, there's one thing I have realized. If I were to take so let's visualize this problem for a bit. Let's suppose that this is me. First of all, I'm going to have to loop through... So first of all, if it's 0, so like if the I is 0, then I don't want to shift it because I need to test this out first. So if I is equal to 0, we're going to pass for now. Or actually, we're just going to append to answer for now because I just want to see the shifted sums. Answer dot append locations. Next, we're going to want to do this. Now, otherwise, what we will do is, so we'll first take our last location, which is just locations.pop, and it's going to be at the ith location. So because we want I to move along as the for loop moves along. So we know that it's in sync. Then, what we're going to do is we're going to want to insert it. So locations.insert insert at the last location, the last location, and it's going to be right where it will be right. Okay, so if I is over here, and I want to insert it at the, I want to insert it I want to insert it at the I-1 position. I-1 position, and then I'm just going to go answer.append locations, and then it will just simply return answer. Let's just print this out and just test this out. Answer. Okay, so 0, 30, 13, 25. Okay, it appears to have a bit of an error where 0 is not moving. However, let's see what we're doing wrong. So, okay, answers appending. Oh yeah. Okay, the issue is that even though we have a shifted location, we can't seem to print. Okay, wait. locations.insert. Wait, let's actually just try and print. Yeah, okay. I believe I know the problem. The problem is that even though we are modifying the locations list, it's not actually, it's only staying there for that, like for the for I in range loop. So it's deleting each time the for loop's happening. So what we will do instead is we'll just print out the locations right here. And we're not going to print this out, just so that we can see the, just so that we can see our growth. There we go. As you can see, it starts off from 0. Oh yeah. So yeah, it goes from 0 and it starts to transform all the way till, like, it starts to travel. I forgot to, let me just print it out here as well. Yeah. So yeah, this is a very similar pattern where 0 is going diagonally. And it's the exact same one we can see over here in our solutions. So this means that we're getting on the right track. Now, there's not really much left to do except wrap it around into our function and then ask for the user inputs. So let's just solve it. So answer.append. And so what we're going to... Alright, sorry about that minor inconvenience. My mic was getting messed up. So what we're going to do is that we're going to append it from solve. So we're going to have our given data, and the ith location is just equal to I. And we're going to do the same for here. So okay, now we will simply just ask for the user input. And so I'll just call that locations. Then we're just going to split the locations. We're going to split it according to the spaces. Then we're just going to go, we're going to convert that into a list, into an integer list. So we're going to go list map int comma locations. And then we're just going to insert a 0 right at the 0th index. All right, then we're just going to call upon our answers function. Location. Then we can just go for things and answer. So a basic for loop. The output will be an unknown variable for now, which will, and then we will just go for letter and things and just add that up. So output plus equal to letters plus a white space. And then we'll just print out output.string. So let's just copy this off and list map int locations. Invalid literal for int base 10. Oh yeah, locations is equal to locations.split. And now, yeah, as you can see, it's all over here. Yeah, so as you can see that we now get a proper working solution. And when I ran this on this Are We There Yet on the Waterloo submissions, I got 15 on 15. And for any of you that don't live in Canada or want to try this out, you guys can also use this website called Dimage. I believe this is the 2018. Are We There Yet? So I can just go. I'm going to copy this off. It's the exact same problems. We can submit the solution. And boom, everything works. Thank you for watching this video. Have a nice day.